Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Jackson Show. I'm your host, Jackson Solomon, and today we're going to be breaking down 4 of this weekend's best games, 2 from college, 2 from the NFL, like we do every week, but this week it means just a little bit more because there was football every day this week. It was rivalry week for college football, so it took a lot of time to put this episode together, so I would appreciate it very much if you leave a like, comment, and subscribe. It means so much to me, and let's just get straight into the video. Starting in college football, Texas and Texas A&M. It was the Lone Star Showdown Friday night. The game was in Austin, Texas. And the Longhorns were the 16th ranked team in the country. Texas A&M, the 3rd ranked team in the country. Each side traded field goals in the second, and then Texas A&M got a touchdown late in the second quarter, and then Texas went on a run. They went field goal, touchdown to start the fourth, 20-10. Then E.J. Smith, that is the son, Emmitt Smith, Cowboys legend, and then final series for Texas, Arch Manning with a 35-yard touchdown run, making the final score 27-17, and Texas would get the win in the Lone Star Showdown for the second straight season. Final score, Texas 27, A&M 17. I kind of predicted that Texas A&M would lose this game because they weren't battle-tested. You look at their schedule, they played Notre Dame early on in the season, and that Notre Dame team that you played is completely different because now their defense is the strength of that team, and that's what made it tough in the first half. I look at it, they played 3 ranked opponents, Notre Dame at the beginning of the season, which was a good game. They played LSU, who had one foot in the grave, Missouri, who is overrated and overhyped, and then they go to Texas, who might be the only real opponent and the only real test Texas A&M has had all season, and they lose that game. So it's understandable to me how Texas A&M lost this game. It was a great defensive game in the first half. I think second half they get into it. They started to give up many possessions, many touchdowns, and so that's why they lost. Also with Texas, I liked how the Longhorns, how they gave up the touchdown at the end of the first half, but they stayed in it. They kind of battled, especially on that defensive side of the ball. They were still in the game. They didn't give up, and they were able to battle in and stay in it. So there's that. And then I said this was game of the year. Didn't actually end up being game of the week. It was number 1 Ohio State. They go to Michigan to take on the Wolverines. And then you just look at the score. Michigan would go down the field on the first series. They kick a field goal. They get a turnover, kick a field goal. Then Ohio State would kick a field goal. Then the start of the second quarter, Jeremiah Smith caught a touchdown pass 35 yards away. Michigan kicked a field goal, and then after that, it was all Ohio State. Brandon Innes caught a touchdown pass from Julian Sayin, make it 17-9. That was the halftime score. And then third quarter, touchdown, Carnell Tate, field goal, Ohio State, just to put it under wraps. 27-9, the final score. This was I'll say this about Michigan. This was a rebuilding year. It wasn't the year where you were supposed to win 10, 12 games, although it was very possible. I think the USC loss is the loss that bothers me the most. I didn't like losing to Ohio State, but there was a chance that they could have lost that game. The USC game is what hurts me the most because it was kind of like the Ohio State game where there was no real, in the 3 losses Michigan had this year, there was no offense. It was primarily they stopped, you hone in on stopping the ground game, and that is how you beat Michigan. You stop them from running the football. That's what happened with Ohio State. You look at the box score, and this was interesting. It's the team that has won the rushing battle the past couple of seasons has won the game. Ohio State outran Michigan by about 20 attempts. They got about 80 more yards, and they didn't average more yards. But still, Michigan came out, and they just didn't play well offensively. They were 1 for 9 on third down. That's credit to Ohio State and their defense. They only picked up 9 first downs total. only had 163 yards compared to Ohio State's 419. The thing about Ohio State is it's frustrating to lose the way they did, but this was the only test that you really had for Ohio State. Michigan's defense isn't bad at all. They don't have a bad defense. It's the offense that you kind of needed to step up in this game, and your quarterback only throws 60 yards on 8 completions, and you run for only 100 yards against the team that you were able to dominate up front the last couple of seasons. Even if you weren't 100% healthy at the running back position, they did. They did. This was one of the years where they didn't. And so, one of the all-time greats, I think that's Blake Corum at the University of Michigan. What he did for the program in the 4 years he was there, that's kind of what made that 4-year run for Blake Corum in Michigan so special. They were able to physically dominate up front. And with Ohio State, I think that the discussion was all year was, where's their ground game? Who's their running back going to be? And it turns out they really kind of found a way to dominate on the ground. Michigan is going to go to a bowl game, and Ohio State undefeated heading into the Big Ten championship game versus Indiana. So that's it. All I got to say is I don't like Ohio State very much. Okay, next is the NFL, Sunday in the NFL game. I didn't talk much about, I didn't put anything from Thursday on here. I just, I feel like Thursday there weren't many good games. Chiefs, Cowboys was certainly interesting. Lions, Packers, interesting. But, weren't many games that I liked from Friday. So I put Rams, Panthers on here. It started with Devontae Adams receiving touchdown from Matthew Stafford, followed by a Chuba Hubbard screen touchdown reception from Bryce Young. Mike Jackson with a 48-yard pick six. Then Rams would answer with a touchdown, field goal by the Panthers, touchdown from Blake Corum, who I just talked about. And that would be the halftime score, 21-17. Panthers come out of the half. Jalen Corker, big-time touchdown reception from Bryce Young. The Rams would answer 28-24. And then the Panthers would score another touchdown, make it 31-28. It's kind of interesting, this game, because the success the Panthers had on fourth down led to their win. They were 3 for 3 on fourth down, 7 of 15 on third down. They didn't outgain them, but what they were able to do is, you can get a stop on fourth down, but you can get a stop on third down. But when we go for it on fourth down, we're going to win the game. And that was that. Stafford had 2 interceptions. Bryce Young had 3 touchdowns. Absolute domination. And I look at the Rams and I go, well, the Rams are going to finish with 2 losses. There has to be a team in there, the denominator that's going to kind of balance them out. And I think it was the Panthers. Their season's not over yet. And when you look at the Rams, you say, cause for concern or bump in the road. There is a little cause for concern here. I do think it's a little cause for concern because with the Rams, they didn't have their best defensive game. You could easily say it was probably their worst when you can't get off the field on fourth down. They weren't prepared I feel like they weren't prepared to play for 3 or 4 downs in this game. So it was understandable why they lost it. I think the Panthers, but I think it could also be a bump of the road where Stafford's not going to play like this every game. Still threw for over 200 yards, still had 2 touchdowns, still had a decent amount of completions in this game. So it wasn't a bad game or a bad performance. It was just, I think it was a bump in the road. They'll find a way to overcome it. I think the Panthers just overall at home, they've been really good, 4-2. And Bryce Young with the 3 touchdowns, that's going to hurt. But like I said, I think that might be the only thing that's really a cause for concern, where your defense gives up 3 touchdowns. But Matthew Stafford isn't going to throw 2 interceptions every single game. Now, the Bills travel to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. 26, let's go over the scoring breakdown. Steelers get a turnover in the second. They take it down the field and score 7-0. Then Matt Prater kicks a field goal, and that's halftime score 7-3. Christian Benford, a fumble recovered for a touchdown in the first series of the second half, 10-7. Then Keon Coleman makes it 16-7. And then off a touchdown reception from Josh Allen. Josh Allen runs a touchdown in. And then Matt Prater kicks in a field goal, make it 26-7. I look at this. You look at this game for Pittsburgh, and there are a lot of causes for concern. I think the defense is the biggest one, where you kind of look at them and you say, "Oh, okay, this is definitely a cause for concern," because the defense is really struggling. And when they lose games, it's because their defense didn't play their best. They beat the Colts because they had a good defense and they had success. I think this game, they didn't do much. Buffalo was able to run the ball a lot. They were able to do that. They had 250 yards rushing, a touchdown on the ground by Josh Allen as well. James Cook himself had 144 yards on 32 carries. And it was not a great game. Rodgers left the game early. I think that's probably a reason why the Steelers weren't able to have as much success offensively. But Buffalo played a good game defensively. And you look at the Bills, and they're starting to find their footing a little bit. They haven't looked this good since they played Kansas City. They're starting to find their footing, where their defense is getting stops and they're playing a good game, and their offense is playing just as good. It looks good. It looks really good. And then with the Steelers, I look at Pittsburgh, and I said it before, defense wins championships. It also loses you football games. This defense that they have is not one of the best. They cut recently. They picked up Adam Thielen. They cut Darius Slay. So that's something to look at there. With the Bills defense, they've looked the best they have in weeks, and the offense is moving it well. So I think defense plays at a high level. There is something to look forward to there. Now it's time to discuss the best part of the episode. That is the weekly awards. We start in the college football world with the college game of the week. It has to go to the Iron Bowl, Alabama versus Auburn. And then I'm also going to give that game the comeback of the week. There were many comebacks in college football this week, so you have to give where credit is due. I give it to the comeback of the week. And really, it was because Auburn, they were down 17-0 in the first half. They kicked 2 field goals, get it 17-6, and then they score a touchdown, and then they score another touchdown, and it's 20-17. And then Alabama goes down the field after tying the game up on a field goal. They score a touchdown. And then Isaiah Horton able to find a way to score on that series. So I think overall, Alabama played a great game. And I think kudos to Auburn for keeping it close. And when I first saw that game, I'm like, man, that is not a good game, because Alabama it's going to be close, but it's not going to be close. Scoreboard is going to be closer than it might be a 2-touchdown game. Auburn played it close. You love to see it. Upset of the week, I give it to SMU. Cal came out. They balled out. They really put on a show, and that show kind of showed you what Cal football is going to look like. If this kid, I forget the guy's name from the ACC, from Cal. I forget his name, but it kind of showed me what to expect from Cal if this guy stays. I doubt it. He's a freshman, but I do think that there is going to be someone who's going to want JKS. I think that's what he's called, right? I think that is what they call him. They call him JKS. Yes. Okay. If JKS stays, because he could hit the portal, he could leave. He could be the next guy at LSU. Really, that all depends on whether he stays or not. And then blowout of the week, I give it to Really, I should have given it to Tennessee versus Vanderbilt, but I gave it to Indiana versus Purdue because of something I saw the last two seasons under Signetti. Indiana has scored 60 and they've scored 50 on their rival Purdue. Very interesting, very surprising. And then our college player of the week, Trinidad Chambliss, Baron Morton. I give it, those are the two nominees. Chambliss, 23 for 34, 350 passing yards, 4 touchdowns. Baron Morton, 25 for 32, 310 yards and 3 touchdowns in a blowout of West Virginia. I give it to Carson Beck, 22 for 29, 267 yards and 3 touchdowns. Miami really should be in the ACC championship game. Our only hope is the conference's only hope is Virginia, because Duke, if they win the conference, Duke is not going to be ranked, which means that there's going to be another group of 5 school. That's interesting. And that's college football for you. It's complete chaos. Now we go to the NFL. NFL game of the week was Broncos Commanders. This was the only game this week that went to overtime, I believe. Yeah, it was the only game this week that went to overtime. It was a very close game, very interesting game. Really expected this game not to be close, but Mariota and the Commander kept the Commanders in the game. The Broncos just were able to squeeze it out thanks to Nick Benito. Comeback of the week, I give it to the Chiefs for the Cowboys-Chiefs game. Dallas went up big, I believe, in this game. Yeah, they were up like 20-14. Mahomes able to kind of get it back closer and closer until Kansas City, until a touchdown and a field goal from Dallas, and then Kansas City was going to get a field goal. Try to, kind of nibble back, try to get back in the game. Dallas kind of took advantage, and it was too late. Upset of the week, I give it to Bengals versus Ravens. Reason why is because Cincinnati didn't expect them to come in and blow out Baltimore. Baltimore is in first place in the, I believe it's the AFC North. I believe Baltimore is due to Pittsburgh losing. But, Joe Burrow looks good. And the Bengals look pretty good with Joe Burrow back at the helm. Blowout of the week, Seahawks versus Vikings. Anytime you get a shutout, it looks good, especially with the way that this team played. I give them a ton of credit. Could have given it to the Patriots versus the Giants last night. I did expect that game to be a little bit closer, and that's when I made the awards. So keep that in mind as well. And then our nominees for Player of the Week, James Cook with 13 carries and 144 yards. And then Kamani Vidal, 25 carries for 126 yards. But the Player of the Week overall, would have given it to Bryce Young, but it goes to Dak Prescott with 27 for 39 with 320 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 1 interception. Those are the weekly awards for the NFL this week. Great week of football. Fun. You'll love to see it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Jackson Show. I'll be back this weekend with weekend predictions for Conference Championship Week and also the NFL. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Jackson Show. And as always, please leave a comment, like, subscribe. I enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for listening. And as always, bring a friend.